All right, so today we're just going to learn everything there is to know about linear equations. All right, how to identify linear equations, and then we're actually going to review graphing the linear equations. Now, some of you have already know how to graph them, but we have different techniques. All right, today I think we're going to do the x-intercept and the y-intercept. But let's first talk about how to identify a line. All right, and the first thing they're telling you is if it can be written in this form, ax plus by equals c. Now I need everybody to understand they call this the standard form. All right, they call this the standard form. All right, now underneath that though, we're going to put the most common form, which is y equals mx plus b. All right, y equals mx plus b. And right now what I want you to write down is m, for whatever reason, is referred to as the slope, and b is referred to as the y-intercept. All right, so basically what they're saying is if you can put it in this format, then you know it's a line. All right, you know it's a line. All right, now I also want to just make this, or make you aware that y is to the first power and x is to the first power. All right, you're never going to have a y squared or an x squared. All right, now because we're going to be doing some graphing, I'm going to start showing you how to use your calculator for the graphing as well. All right, but we're probably not going to go into the graphing today. Probably by the end of the week, I'll show you how to use your calculator. But today, I think we're just learning how to identify what's a line and what's not a line. All right. Now, let's just go right down to the examples. All right. Now, we're going to start with number 1. All right. Now, again, we don't have to put it in the form ax plus by equals c. All we have to know is that x is to the first power and y is to the first power, and the x and y are separated. All right. So is number 1, is that a line?
Yes.
Yes, it is. All right, number 1 is yes. Well, the reason it is, again, because I could put it in the form 4y. I could write 4y minus 2x equals 0. You see that? Okay, so again, here's the problem. It's this up here, guys. If x and y, does everybody understand a and b are just any number? A and b can be any number, c can be any number. So the question is number 1, could I write that in the form ax plus by equals c?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, in this case, what is c, guys? 0. Now, I kind of wrote it backwards, but it doesn't really matter. In this case, a is what? Be careful.
2.
A is negative 2, and b would be what?
4.
And b would be 4. It doesn't really matter, though. The point is that you have to have an x and a y. All right? Now, be careful with what I just said. All right? The a and the b could actually be 0 also. All right? They both can't be 0. All right, so let's look at number 2. Is that an actual equation of a line? And the answer is yes. The reason it's yes, come on, watch and just listen. I could make this, does everybody agree I could make that y equals 2?
Yes.
And then I could just put 0x plus 1y. Does everybody see what I'm saying? All right. So you can have a single x or a single y or what? X and y. All right. Because the a and the b, either one of them could be what? Either one of them could be 0. Yes, quickly.
So if you have like 1y, that means that the
That's-
x is 0.
That's exactly correct.
Oh.
All right, that's exactly correct. All right, so now let's look at number 3. That's obviously a what?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay, now I'm glad we're on number 4.
No.
Right. The reason it's a no is because, right, you have x times y. You have x times y. All right, you cannot have that. Nope, you cannot separate no matter how hard you try. Okay, so that's a no. All right, number 5 is a what? Yes. Hey, listen. Hey, guys, you're making it way too hard. You're making it way too hard. All right, I'm going to say the answer yes or no. If you don't know, you can raise your hand. All right, because I think we've already addressed all possibilities. All right, it's just a matter of you now understanding or reviewing what we just said. So number 5 is definitely what? Yes. You can have a single x or a single y, or an x and a y. That makes it linear. All right. Now let's go with number 6. Definitely a what? No. All right, because it's x squared. That's called a quadratic, all right, or a parabola. We'll get to that in the near future. All right, number 7, yes or no? 8, 9, 9. Now again, negatives don't matter. Yes, there's an x and a y. Right? You can have x and y. Right? I'm not even asking you to put it in standard form. I'm just asking you to recognize that there's an x and a y. All right? So number 9 is definitely yes. Number 10.
No.
Yes. Why would you say no? Shh, I want to hear it. Is a fraction a number?
Yes.
Yes. So that's perfectly okay. Again, don't be confused by the fractions. We didn't limit the a and the b. All right, there was no limit. The rule was there had to be an x or a y or an x and a y. All right, and everything has to be to the first power. All right, so number 11 is obviously now 12, 13, 14, 15.
Wait, where are we?
there's the x and y and another y.
Because you can add the y's together.
Yes, thank you very much. You can add the y's together. You can add the y's together. So if I add 2y to both sides, I get 6x is equal to 8 plus 3y. Now you have an x, you have a y, all constants.
How do you get 3?
All right? Sandra, what? Stop, let me help. There's too much interruption today. What, Sandra? Come on, Sandra. Add 2y to both sides, girl. Combining like terms. We're combining like terms. Maxine, did you have a question? All right. Come on, guys. Last couple. 16,
Yes.
17,
No.
18.
No.
All right, guys. To me, that's simple. It's so simple. X, Y, or an X and a Y. All right. As long as it's in that format, it's considered a linear equation. All right. It's considered a linear equation. So now that you're able to identify those, all right. Now we're going to go into graphing. All right. And the first thing I want to talk about is I want you to highlight in the next section is the x-intercept and the what? The y-intercept. All right? The x-intercept. Listen, I need everybody to write a little note to themselves. An x-intercept is simply where the line crosses the x-axis. Where the line crosses the x-axis. And the y-intercept is probably where the line crosses the what? The y-axis. All right, so x-intercept, where the line crosses the x-axis. Y-intercept, where the line crosses the y-axis. All right, now the next thing I want you to write down is this. This will help you out. The x-intercept is defined as x comma 0. The y-intercept is defined as 0 comma y. Now for those of you guys who have a hard time understanding that, to find the x-intercept, we're trying to find an x value. All right, we're trying to find an x coordinate. So that's what the x coordinate is. The y value will always be what? 0. All right, when you're trying to find the y-intercept, you're trying to find a what? A y value. So the x will be what? 0. Is everybody with me on this, guys?
Yeah.
All right, and again, it'll make more sense after I do a couple examples. But those are the basic definitions. The x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. All right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this graph right here. And now I want to talk about this right here. What is that called right there, that point?
The y-intercept.
Hold on a second, I don't know what's going on. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so now let me just make it this point right here. That is called the what? That's called the y-intercept, thank you. Because it's where the line crosses what? The y-axis. Now, notice, what is the x-coordinate? The y-intercept, the x is always going to be 0. Now let's look down here. Obviously, this one down here is called the what? X-intercept. And notice what about the y value?
It's 0.
The y value is always 0. All right? So now, again, it's very easy to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and I'll show you how to do that. All right? Now, let's go ahead and look at question number 1. All right, let's look at question number 1. All right? So we're going to graph using the intercepts. We're going to graph using the intercepts. So in my opinion, to me, this is the easiest way to do it. All right? Now, generally, we can graph lines by using a table, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so I want everybody to make a little table here, x and y. All right? Now, here's what I need you to remember. If we're trying to graph using the intercepts, we're going to find the x-intercept first, which means the y value will be what? 0. Then I'm going to find the what? Right? The y-intercept. So if I find the y-intercept, then what?
0.
Then the x-coordinate is 0. So anytime you want to find the intercepts, listen, this right here is how you're going to set it up. Is everybody hearing me? You're using a table, all right? The y value is 0 first, then the x value is 0. But does it really matter what order that goes in? It makes no difference, the order. If you find the y-intercept first and the x-intercept, it's all the same. Now again, listen, I'm going to give you an answer, and then someone's going to go, oh my gosh, how did you get that? I don't want you doing that anymore. I'm going to put an answer up there, and your job is to try to figure out how I got the answer. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds, and you're going to figure it out, because it's that easy. All right? So, to find the x-intercept, I'm going to let the y value be 0. If I let the y value be 0, 2x equals -2. So x is what?
Wait, what?
I already said, we're not allowed to say what. You're supposed to look and say and figure it out. I'll say it one more time. To find the x-intercept, I plug 0 in for y. In other words, I let this be 0. Now, come on. 2x equals -2. All right? So if 2x equals -2, x has to be what? -1. All right? Maxine,
I don't get it.
we're dividing both sides by 2, Maxine. Divide both sides by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. What's -2 divided by 2? Yes, I agree. All right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this, but I don't want you to erase yours. All right? Now, I want the x value to be 0. All right? So if I let the x value be 0, this becomes what? 0. So the y-intercept is just what? Be careful. The y-intercept is what?
-3.
What are you talking about?
I know you said when it was because this y equals variable.
You see, that's what I'm trying to tell. Listen, here's the problem with some of you. You just say things without thinking. We're not in 6th grade anymore or 7th grade. You're supposed to be able to come to a math class and reason. I am not giving something over your head. It is all logic based. I'm expecting you, when I say the x value is 0, look up on the board and put a 0 in for x and solve that equation. If x is 0, what is the y value? -2. I don't even know what the discussion is about. If x is 0, that means this becomes 0. I'm left with what?
Y equals -2.
I don't know what the problem is. Correct how you're reasoning. Think before you speak. That's a good lesson. It's not difficult. I promise. It's not difficult. All right? So now, we've just found the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So now watch how simple it is to graph. All right, so now we plot the points. -1, 0. So I'm going to plot -1, 0. And then I'm going to plot 0, -2. And now we're going to draw the line. Come on, that was simple. All right, very, very simple. All right, does anybody have any problems graphing points? All right, now, hopefully question number 2 is better. Hopefully question number 2 is better. So I think, all right, what's nice about this is, for those of you who like to copy, paste, number 3, paste. Now I'm ready. All right, and keep in mind that we're doing what? 0, 0, 0. Is everybody good on that? That's how you could start each problem. All right? That's kind of why I like Notability. There's lots of little shortcuts to help you with your time. All right, now please don't embarrass me. Number 2, if y is 0, before you say something, think about it. If the y is 0, Freddie, the x is what? Yes, -1. Now you can put your hand up and say, how did you do that if you have no idea? I mean it. Go ahead. Not sure? So look right here. Here's the key to it. Simple, simple. You ready? The y value is 0. Do you hear me? So if the y value is 0, that means this becomes 0. Because 6 times 0 is what? Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Now, can you solve 3x equals -3? Of course you can. Right, Maxine? We're just dividing by 3. Hayes, you understand that or not? Come on now.
Yeah.
You got to communicate with me now. I'm not upset if you don't know something. I want to help you. But you got to communicate. If you're good now, let's move on. You good now?
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to erase that. And now I'm going to let the x be 0. So now you have to be careful here. Please be careful. Don't say the first thing that comes to your mind because you're going to miss it. If the x is 0, then the y is, CC, I knew you were going to say that. Absolutely incorrect. Drew, you guys, am I blind?
Oh.
What is it?
It's 2.
Don't embarrass me like that.
Because it's -6 and 3. Yeah, you divide -6 by -3, and that's +2. That's what it said.
Please tell me.
Oh, it's going to be 1/2.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Speak up,
Oh,
girl. I'm not sure what you guys are doing. That's embarrassing. All right? We have you on tape now saying 3 divided by 6 is 2. You're on tape. 3 divided by 6 is 2. Your parents are going to say, what are you in an algebra class for if you can't do 3 divided by 6? No, I'm telling your parents to read and listen, all right, so they can see what the problem is. 3 divided by 6 is not 2. 3 divided by 6 is what?
Negative 1/2.
Well,
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
so again, let's go in super slow motion for some of you. Here we go. I'm at negative 6y equals negative 3. Well, somewhere between 0 and 1 is 1/2. There we go. Now, divide by negative 6. Divide by negative 6. So think of it in terms of a fraction. 3/6 reduces to 1/2. Now, as someone just asked me, how in the world do I plot 1/2? Here we go. Let's first try negative 1, 0. We got negative 1, 0. Now, 0, 1/2. 1/2 is halfway between 0 and 1. Yeah, very good. You put it between 0 and 1. Preferably what? Halfway between. That would be 1/2.
You are so funny.
I know, I can't help it.
Oh, wait, I put it in the wrong spot.
All right.
I don't know.
We're admitting that. My gosh.
Yeah, I don't.
How can you not draw a straight line with notability? It draws it for you.
If you hold it down,
embarrassing.
it goes straight through.
That's not even on the thing.
I know. I'll show you that.
Here we go.
Hold it down.
Now, again, slide over to number 3. Here we go. Slide over to number 3, please. Here we go. Now, listen up. For question number 3, we're going to let y be 0. And if y is 0, x is?
Negative 1.
1.
Oh my
Negative 2
God.
and negative 2 and negative 2 is 1.
With me now, Maxine?
Now that I've gotten yelled at by everybody.
All right.
Oh my God.
Now you know how I feel. Now you know how I feel. All right, here we go. Now, if the x is 0, y is CC?
Negative 2.
Wow, you got one right today. Very good. All right, now plot the points. 1, 0. All right, let's plot the point 1, 0. And then we'll plot the point 0, negative 2. All right, and now we'll try to draw a straight line, preferably, not like CC.
I can't do
All right,
it. Not that hard.
leave her alone. Leave her alone. Let her practice. All right.
You just have to hold it down.
So again, listen to me, guys. Everything on there. Anybody have any questions with x-intercept or y-intercept? Very basic. Very easy. All right. Now, what I want to do is we're going to graph using a table. We're going to graph using a table. Now, again, bless you. Some of you are going to say, can I just use the intercepts? Because that's pretty easy. And I'm going to say, listen, and I'm going to say, for the technique-wise, I'm going to show you an even easier way next week. All right, but there are advantages. There are advantages to knowing all the different possibilities. All right, so in this case, all right, we learned using the intercepts. Now we're going to learn using a table. So for your table now, here is what you're going to do. The only difference is I want the table here. Come on, guys. We've heard everybody sneeze before. It's not really that funny. All right. So I have an X and a Y. Now, here's what I want you to do. All right. Now, when you plot using a table, I'm going to ask that you use multiple points. And we're going to use 3 points. The reason why we're going to use 3 points is because if you make a mistake, the 3rd point will expose your mistake. All right? So for your plotting points, I want you to always use -1, 0, and 1 unless I tell you differently. All right, unless I tell you differently. All right, so please pay attention. All right, now, please don't make an issue of this. If x is -1, y is -2. Do you have any issue with that? Look at the graph. Stop, stop. We're graphing y equals 2x. So if x is -1, 2 times -1. All right? If x is 0, what would be the y value? 0. And if x is 1, y is what? 2. It's really simple, guys. Really, really simple. So now what you have to do is you have to plot what? You have to plot those 3 points. All right? You have to plot those 3 points. When we do that, -1, -2, 0, 0, and 1, 2. And what do you notice? They'll form a line. You with me? If they don't make a line, that means you just made a mistake with your coordinates that you put in. All right, is everybody with me on this? All right. Now, I want to look at number 5, and I need everybody to put a little star by number 5. All right. The reason why I'm saying put a star by number 5 is because I don't want it in this form if we're going to use a table. If we're going to use a table, I always want it in the form y equals mx plus b. In other words, we want to solve for y. All right, we want to solve for y. And you can put that in your notes. It must be solved for y. All right? Now, that means that I want to get y by itself. All right? Is the y by itself? No. The x is in the way. Does everybody agree with that? So if the x is in the way, I need to move that to the other side. And if it's positive x on the left side, it's going to be what? Negative x on the other side. So it should read now, -y is equal to -x minus 1. Everybody listen to me. You have to understand that process. I'm picking up the x, and I'm moving it away from y because I'm using a table. So I pick the x up, and the x right now is positive x. If I move it to the other side, it's what? It's negative x. All right? Nope. Nope. We're not doing any different. All right? This is it right now. All right, there's a shortcut, but I'm not going to do that right now. All right? Now, notice there's a negative y, correct? Yeah. I need it to be positive y. So the negative y means change all the signs. All right? That's like a -1. You can divide by -1, you can multiply by -1, but I personally want kids to know it as just change the signs. So when you change the signs, it becomes y equals x plus 1. Y equals x plus 1. Do I have any questions with that? All right? Now we're going to do what? We're going to make our table again. All right, and when we make our table, I want you to use -1, 0, and 1. And when I plug -1 in, what do I get? Be careful. When I plug -1 in for x, I get what? Remember, think before you say something. 0. Very good. When I plug 0 in, what do I get? Well, look and see. If I let x be 0, the y value is 1. That's all we're doing. And when I plug 1 in, how are you getting that? If I plug 1 in, look right here, guys. I'm plugging it into this equation. So if I plug 1 in for...
2.
Yes, 2. Now look, I don't care if you're wrong, right? I care that you're not trying to figure it out. All right? I care that you're not trying to figure out. Is everybody okay with that? Who's having an issue? Nobody's having an issue? Now all you have to do is do what? Plug those points or plot those points. All right? Plot those points. And then that should make your line. All right? That should make your line. So here we go. If I do that, all right? -1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2. Look at that. Perfect line. Every time. All right, again, very simple. Very, very simple. So if I plug in -1, watch me now. I'm showing you. Listen to me. Right here, that means x is 0, right? Are you having trouble with 0 plus 1? That's all I'm doing. See, I'm plugging a 1 in next. You with me on that, right? That's all there is. That's all there is to it. Okay, very simple. Very, very simple. All right. Now, again, this is I'm arguably the most important unit all year long because there's a lot of graphing, and you need to know how to do all types of graphing. All right, this is just the basics. All right. Now, number 6. Put a star by number 6 because we have some problems. All right. I want it in the right format, y equals. All right, I'm not in y equals right now. All right, so the x moves to the other side. When I move the x to the other side, it becomes negative x. So now I want you to write down 2y equals negative x plus 4. Is everybody with me on that? So far, so good, right? Now, the y is not correct. It's 2y. So how do I make it 1y? I divide everything by 2. Now, I'm going to show all the work, but it's not necessary for most of you. All right, I'm going to divide by 2. So I divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2.
So then
I'm left with, go ahead, Connor.
1y equals 1/2 x plus, wait, is that it? Is that it? Oh, x plus 2.
Good, except you forgot the negative. So y equals
Yeah.
negative 1/2 x plus 2. Is everybody with me on that?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm really trying to help you out now, and I don't know why this is hard for kids. Should I use -1 this time? No, why not? Not negative 1/2. What should I use?
No, I was going to ask a question because I don't get
Go, shh, be quiet.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Why do you put a number there? How do you get the first number there?
That's what we're talking about right now. In the past, I said you always use -1, 0, 1 unless I tell you differently. Now, the reason I don't want to use -1 right now is because I'll end up with 1/2 plus 2, and I'll end up with a fraction. I don't want a fraction. I don't like graphing fractions because it's not precise. Yay, there you go. Why am I going to use -2? That way you don't get a fraction. If it was 1/3, I'm going to use or 3, right? If it was 3/4, I'm going to use 4. If it was 9/10, I'm going to use what? 10. All right, because I want the fractions to cancel out. Is everybody with me on that? So when you're at 1/2, we're going to use, instead of -1, 0, 1, we're going to use what? -2, 0, and 2. All right, we're going to use -2, 0, and 2. Now, you had to understand that if you use -1, 0, and 1, you're just going to get fractions. It's just harder to use. But if we use numbers that are divisible by 2, then you won't get a fraction. All right, and the easiest one is 2 and -2. All right, so now you got to think carefully now because I don't want you to show a lot of work here. This is simply mental math, and you've got to be better at mental math, obviously. All right, so now I'm plugging in -2 for x. So what's -1/2 times -2?
1.
Positive 1. And then 1 plus 2 is 3. Now look, please stay with me on that and make sure you see that. Now you plug in 0. 0 times anything is what? 0. So the answer is what? 2. Now, if you recognize there's always patterns. So from 3, 2, the next number is probably a what? A 1. It's probably a 1. But we're going to verify that. If I plug 2 in, what's 2 times negative 1/2?
-1.
-1, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is everybody happy?
Yeah.
And then -1 plus 2.
1.
1. All right. And now let's graph those. -2, 3. 0, 2. 2, 1. And now make your line. Anybody have any issues? Does anybody agree with me? That really isn't that hard. It's really not that hard. All right. Graph using intercepts, you graph plotting points using a table. All right. We basically use the table on both of them because that's the way I like to do it. Now I want to see how much homework I gave you. I really didn't give you that much homework. So listen to me, guys. I really like Notability. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump to 13 because they gave you one that you're unfamiliar with. All right, look at 13. Flip the page on 13. All right, it says graph making a table. So I just want to review this with you, and then I'm going to leave you on your own. All right. So X, Y. So again, in a table I said use always what? -1, 0, 1, unless there's a fraction involved, right? So the X is -1, 0, 1. Well, now some of my kids were so confused here. So what is the Y? Always. The Y is always 4. No matter how hard you try to plug -1 or 0, 1 in, you can't. It's telling you that the Y value is always what? 4, regardless of what X is. So then you just make these 4, and you will see that that becomes a horizontal line. All right? No daydreaming. All right. Now, I think everything else is pretty obvious. All right? And for some of you guys, listen, I don't want shortcuts. All right? I want it exactly like I showed you. If you forgot something, go back up to this up here that we did, the study guide, and verify it, all the information. Anybody have any questions? All right, very good day. I told you it's super easy, and you're going to be given a test on this on Friday, so it should be a real. Now, as soon as you get behind, though, you got to catch up. All right, you got to let me know. All right, now, finish up right now, please. We still have some time.